the If you are a mystery thriller girly, you need, absolutely positively need to read The Teacher by Freida McFadden. Holy shit. This book was such a page turner. I have not been able to put this down for the past 2 days. I'm not even kidding, I was sitting on my toilet reading it, okay?
I've read 16 Freida McFadden books, and I'm gonna let you guys know if I would recommend these with a simple yes, no, or maybe so let's start.
Raise your hand if you've ever been personally attacked by the epilogue of a book. I'll go first. This book is called The Inmate by Freida McFadden, and I literally just binged it in one sitting, and what the fuck?
Okay, this is great. And this is great. This is great. This is great. Oh, we didn't read this one.
No, we read that one.
This one. And this is great. And this is great. They're all Freida McFadden. How could you not love her?
Freida McFadden, a name that's become impossible to ignore in the world of thrillers. With her twisty plots, shocking reveals, and viral popularity on BookTok and beyond, she skyrocketed to the top of bestseller charts, selling millions of copies worldwide. Yet, despite her meteoric success, very little is actually known about her. Unlike many best-selling authors, Freida keeps a surprisingly low profile. She doesn't really give any flashy interviews or go on grand book tours or anything like that. That being said, with great success, as per usual, comes great criticism. And while so many readers swear by her addictive and page-turning stories, others claim that her formulaic writing and cheap thrillers have completely ruined the thriller genre. And as an avid fan of thrillers myself, I wanted to put in my 2 cents, of course, and discuss the Freida McFadden phenomenon and express my own concerns about the genre in general. I also asked you guys' thoughts on Freida and her books and combed the internet for different opinions, so we essentially have a lot to get through today. So without wasting any more time, let's just get into it. Let us just quickly get familiar with who Freida McFadden is, shall we? Well, first thing I want to point out is that Freida McFadden is actually her pen name. I've heard a lot of speculations as to what her real name is, and I've also heard that she allegedly also tries to conceal how she really looks like by wearing a wig. Well, here's my take on it. If she wants to be private and hide her identity, that is totally within her rights, and I personally want to respect that. That is why I will avoid making any unnecessary speculations on this topic. All we know from a couple of interviews Freida has given is that she attended Harvard University as an undergrad, and she currently works as a doctor who specializes in brain disorders. However, she's not a brain surgeon. I feel like there's a lot of misinformation about that online, so I just wanted to highlight that.
I'm not a brain surgeon. I just want to be really clear about that, because there's like a rumor going around, like on several reputable sites, like newspapers, like she's also a brain surgeon. I am not a brain surgeon. I'm a regular physician, not surgical.
One of the main reasons of Freida using a pen name and making rare public appearances is her social anxiety. In an interview with Washington Post, she mentions that she doesn't necessarily like to be the center of attention. I love that people are reading my books, but the spotlight on me specifically is hard.
Are you recognized in the streets?
No, never. I mean, people don't know who Freida McFadden is. I'm just telling you, like, people do not know that name. I'm being real here.
Are you glad for that? Does that make life easier?
I am very glad for that. I don't want to be Taylor Swift here. You know, I'm happy being, just quietly living my quiet little life.
Also, from what I understood, Freida doesn't really want to mix her real life job in medicine with her writing career. She essentially worries that some of her patients might feel weird about being treated by a best-selling thriller writer. At work, I want to be a doctor. A lot of my books have medical stuff in them, and I don't want people saying, "Is this based on me?" It feels unprofessional. Like many other authors, Freida too first picked up reading as a hobby, and she never really thought that this would be her career. In 2013, she self-published her first novel, The Devil Wears Scrubs, which wasn't a thriller, by the way. It actually told the story of her intern year of residency. But once she started writing, she just couldn't stop. And fast forward 10 years, Freida is now #1 New York Times, Amazon charts, USA Today, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Sunday Times, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author. Last year, she also won Goodreads Choice Award in the category of mystery and thriller, which further solidified her place as one of the most popular authors in the genre. But most importantly, like I already mentioned, she's all over TikTok. And whether you like it or not, but BookTok has become a key indicator of an author's popularity these days. Oh, and yeah, her best-selling Housemaid series has gained so much buzz, especially on the very same BookTok, that a movie adaptation of it is now underway with a release date set for December 25, 2025. The cast includes Sydney Sweeney as Millie, Amanda Seyfried as Nina, Brandon Sklenar as Andrew, Michele Morone as Enzo, and Paul Feig as the director.
This is me before The Housemaid by Freida McFadden.
It's day one and there's red flags all around. She's crazy. She's actually clinically insane. It's the Delulu for me. They are living in this big ass house and they put her in the attic with a cot and an itchy blanket. Like, red flag.
And yeah, what else? As per Frida's own website, she lives with her family and a cat in a centuries-old 3-story home overlooking the ocean with staircases that creak and moan with each step. Nobody could hear you if you scream, unless you scream really loudly. Well, I usually dedicate a section to exploring why people love a certain author, kind of analyzing and unpacking the reasons behind their huge success. So let us do exactly that with Freida McFadden and dive into what makes her so massively popular. Let me start this entire section by saying that a lot of people refer to Freida McFadden as the Colleen Hoover of the mystery thriller genre. To be honest, I myself agree with this sentiment. There are indeed a lot of similarities between these two authors' writing styles, and in general, I've noticed that the reasons people love Freida McFadden now and gravitate towards her books so much are strikingly similar to why so many readers were obsessed with Colleen Hoover just a few years ago. We all remember that, don't we? It's a very basic writing style that is very easy to read. Like, if you're a non-native English speaker, you can still enjoy her books without having to look at the dictionary every 2 seconds. The books are usually super fast-paced, filled with tons of twists and turns that make it hard to stop reading. Both of their books have been referred to as junk food, so the books you can read in low focus times, books you can read with your brain turned off, etc, etc. But aside from that, I think a lot of people tend to pick up Freida's books because they are free on Kindle Unlimited, which makes them easily accessible with no paywall to overcome. And when you don't have to pay 10 or I don't know, 15 bucks for a single book, you are probably less inclined to judge it so harshly and feel like you wasted your money, if you know what I mean. But another super interesting thing that I want to point out, and it is also something that I think contributes significantly to the love and hype surrounding Freida, right? The thing is, she has a huge Facebook group. As of right now, there are 163,000 members in it. They call themselves Freida McFans, and well, Freida herself is very involved in it. She posts frequently, sometimes multiple times per day, and she even comments under other people's posts sometimes. Yeah, and this for sure contributes to parasocial relationship between her and her readers. People start to think that they know her personally, and the loyalty of fans in return strengthens even more, as you can imagine. But when the fans are this loyal and this deeply involved in an author's work, it's really hard to have any honest conversations or voice any real criticism, because in groups like this, it is likely that the criticism will be completely drowned out by the loyalty and support of diehard fans. So yeah, I just found that whole thing, that Facebook group, really fascinating. But now let's get into the most interesting part, the criticism that Freida McFadden receives and my own thoughts on it, which I have some, okay? Before we get into it though, I want to preface this with saying that I myself have read 4 of Freida's books, all 3 in her Housemaid series, and one of her most hyped and popular titles, which is called Never Lie. I am someone who enjoyed the first book in the Housemaid series, and I often even recommend that to people who want something fast-paced and quick to read, something to get them back into reading, to get them out of the reading slump, etc, etc. Do I think that that book is a masterpiece? Absolutely not. It's a popcorn thriller, light, easy entertainment, and there is nothing wrong with that. Those kinds of books do have their place, they serve a specific purpose, and they do appeal to a specific audience. However, the rest of the series gets progressively worse. The last book, The Housemaid is Watching, even made it to my worst reads of 2024 list. It was that boring and pointless and bizarre. Curiously enough, Never Lie was on my worst books of 2023 list, so as you can see my experience with Frida's works hasn't been that positive after all. Honestly, initially I kind of thought about picking a few more of her titles before filming this video, but I quickly abandoned that idea just because I knew that I'd probably end up being overly critical and picky and hyper-focused on every single tiny detail, which wouldn't really make for a fair perspective. Hey friends, many hours later, we actually got interrupted earlier, but yeah, that's okay. I think we were about to discuss the criticism that Freida McFadden receives, and yeah, let's just take a look at what people on the internet have to say about Freida and her books. Also, please don't get used to me holding this candle in my hands. I think I'm gonna get tired of it pretty soon, but for now, I like it. I mean, the things we do for the vibes, right?
The things I do for love.
Okay, so first of all, people point out that all of Freida's books are very similar to each other. They all have the same tropes and characters: a handsome husband, a jealousy trope, a twist based on one character who is the most normal and loving, being a villain in the end. People say that the first book of hers that you read really grips you and pulls you in, but after that, it's pretty much all the same. Again, having read 4 of her books myself, I definitely noticed this trend. It does for sure get very repetitive and predictable, especially if you are already kind of a seasoned mystery thriller reader. But at the same time, I think every author gets accused of being repetitive. Sarah J. Maas and Colleen Hoover, I have done videos on them previously and we covered pretty much the same things. People also say that beloved Emily Henry also writes the same characters but in different settings, and I've given this example many times previously, but Agatha Christie as well pretty much used the same formulas for her whodunits over and over again, and she became the best-selling fiction writer of all time. So yes, sometimes I think people just want to read the same thing over and over again, especially if it is something they enjoy, they find comfort in. With Freida's books, I think that they probably are chasing the same high. So yeah, honestly, I don't know how I feel about this whole repetitiveness argument. What we should feel strongly about though is the fact that some of Freida's books are eerily similar to other authors' works. I haven't really seen anyone, and by anyone I mean content creators, talking about it on the internet, besides Hailey here on BookTube. I think she mentioned The Housemaid being similar to The Last Mrs. Parrish. I will try to find the clips and insert them here, but apparently the parallels are quite striking, down to the minor tweaks and changes.
And the similarities are just getting too crazy for me at this point, for me to think that this is anything other than like a direct ripoff. And it feels really weird that like this ripoff is coming from an author who mostly is on KU and like independently published, and she's like ripping off a thriller that is traditionally published that people would have to like go to the store and buy. I don't know, it just feels like she's like, oh, you don't want to pay money for these expensive ass $30 hardcover books from Barnes & Noble? I'll give you it. All you have to do is have Kindle Unlimited. Like, is that her lane? Is that what she does? I don't know. This is just too weird. Like, there are too many coincidences. Like, if you've read The Last Mrs. Parrish, then you know about the Broadway show scene. And, like, that is the pivotal scene in The Last Mrs. Parrish. When I tell you in The Housemaid, it was the same exact pivotal scene. I'm having trouble remembering all of these specifics of The Last Mrs. Parrish, and honestly, now I want to go back and read it to see if it is truly better, because I really do believe it is, and either way, it was published first, so I think we all know who did it first.
I haven't read The Last Mrs. Parrish myself, so I don't know what to say about the alleged extent of plagiarism happening here, but I trust Hailey, and from what other people on the internet have said, the similarities between those two books are kind of hard to ignore. And she also has another book called The Wife Upstairs, which ironically people claim that that one is actually a carbon copy of Colleen Hoover's Verity. And I must say the synopsis of The Wife Upstairs does sound exactly like the plot of Verity. Again, I have read Verity, but I haven't read The Wife Upstairs, so I'm trying not to make any definitive statements without having first-hand experience, but this is just what people on the internet say. Okay, moving on. A lot of people find, well, let's say, Freida's productivity very, very fishy and suspicious just because she pumps out like 3-4 books per year and also has very high average rating for basically all of them. Some people also said that she uses ChatGPT to write her novels, and look, I think she had written most of her novels before the AI tool even existed, so it's a stretch. It's definitely a stretch. Also, apparently she has a huge back catalog, a lot of unpublished books, a lot of books that she started writing but just did not finish. And apparently she's just capitalizing on her massive popularity by getting her old stuff published now. This has been confirmed by Sourcebook's mystery and thriller imprint, Poisoned Pen Press, which has print rights to 15 of Freida's books. Rather than waiting for her to write the next one, we're peppering in the earlier self-published ones, so her fans are constantly being fed more Freida.
How many books do you have partially written or in the process of writing?
So, unpublished. So, I'll just say unpublished books. I have 7, including the bad one. But that's including the bad one, but I'm not publishing.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. So now it's just a matter of like spending a long time fixing them and editing and making them perfect.
Some people also wondered whether Freida has a ghostwriter, to which Freida responded on Facebook, calling this criticism ludicrous and adding, "Why on earth would I hire a ghostwriter to do something I love to do?" I don't know, man. We can only guess what the true reason behind her productivity is, but I do think that she could benefit immensely from slowing down a little bit, focusing on improving her writing quality, sentence structure, and dialogue. Also, I mean, if a non-native English speaker like me notices typos in your books, well, that is not a huge compliment to your writing, is it? Okay, let's take a break from holding this in my hands. Also, very quickly, I want to mention that a lot of people absolutely hate the covers of her books and they find them extremely cheap looking and tacky. And here, I kind of have to agree, they do not necessarily look well put together. And surprisingly, I found out that Freida apparently designs them herself. Yeah, she does.
When you're going to pick covers for your books, because, you know, if people have read maybe The Housemaid or things, you always have important pieces on the covers. How does that go for you with that whole process of designing covers and then picking them for your books? What is that like?
So the Housemaid cover was designed by BookTok, and I thought they did an amazing job. I remember I was nervous about it, and I saw the cover, and I was like, yes, I love that cover. Like immediately, we connected. The other books, you know, I actually make the covers myself, which is probably super stupid.
I actually did it myself. Yeah. Nice.
But I love doing it. What?
I said I love them though. I mean, I feel like it's perfect for what's going on in the story that you don't realize it sometimes because, again, I haven't read Ward D, so I was telling people when I first unboxed it, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in a cell and there's a chair in the corner and I'm already creeped out, so I'm sure that's going to like play a part in the story, but you know, with the housemaid, like looking through the little keyhole and Neverlie, the sofa. I mean, there's always little bits and pieces that I think, I mean, the covers are perfect for what's going on in the story. It's incredible that you create them.
Yeah, it's not, and I don't like tell a person like this is what I want. I literally make them myself, which, because when I was in medical school, for some unknown reason, my husband one day said, let's learn Photoshop. And we just learned it because we didn't have children then. And we had time to do random things like learn Photoshop. And he showed me how to do all this stuff. And then I got pretty good at it and I like it. It's fun.
I don't know. When you are a beginner, I can certainly understand that, but maybe it is time to hire a professional now that you've reached a certain level of success and have some money to spare. Again, just a thought. Okay, a quick note from editing me. Apparently, starting with her novel, The Co-Worker, Sourcebook has been creating Freida's covers, so disregard my previous wannabe sassy comment. You can see 4 of those new covers on the screen now. I mean, they definitely followed a similar formula with their designs. Has the quality improved much? I'll leave that for you to decide.
But I actually recently signed with a publisher, Source Books. So from now on, they're going to be making my covers. There's not going to be any Freida made it at home on Photoshop covers. They made the cover of my new book, The Coworker, that's coming out in August.
And lastly, the thing I've been itching to talk about is Freida and her twists. This is one aspect of her writing that gets the most amount of praise on the internet, which I find that both funny and fascinating at the same time. Because I find that her twists make absolutely no logical sense. Like most of the time, her reveals or twists actually contradict the inner monologues or the actions of the characters from just a couple of chapters earlier. Like, for example, I'm begging those who think that the twist in Never Lie was like absolutely amazing, jaw-dropping, brilliant, and never seen before.
I just finished. Oh my god. Oh my god. I just finished this book in literally 4 hours, probably even less. The mindfuckery. What?
To go back and reread the first 100 pages of that exact same book, I guarantee that you will see that it makes absolutely zero sense, because if you know the twist beforehand, about 90% of that book doesn't actually add up. Yeah, Freida in general, from what I've noticed, seems quite obsessed with having a twist in her books, almost to the point where she tries so hard to outsmart the reader that she ends up losing the track of the story she herself has been building this whole time and messing it up completely. After all, she herself has admitted that she's limited not by ideas or writing time, but good twists.
So I'm kind of curious, because you are known for your twists as well as your amazing stories and fantastic relatable characters. But at what point in the writing process do the twists come? Are they as you write, or are they plotted out well in advance?
Oh, they're very much plotted out in advance. Like, I've heard people say this, but I don't come up with it on the fly. Like, I won't write a word until I have the twist. And I do plant little breadcrumbs throughout. And if I don't have a good twist, if I don't have a twist that if I tell it to my husband, he's like, that's pretty good, like, I won't write it.
And that is all fine and dandy, but again, I think she focuses so much on surprising her readers that she kind of forgets to develop her characters properly, give them any depth, any personality, or even establish clear motives for them. Not to mention the lack of subtext, critique, or any subtlety in her storytelling. We don't even want to go there. The bar is too low for that discussion. I mean, even this article in the New York Times mentions how her book The X was loaded with so many twists and turns that it confused and baffled many readers, including Freida's own mother. My mom loved the book, still doesn't get the ending to this day. Well, maybe your mom has a point, Freida. I don't know. Okay, from here, I want to smoothly transition to the discussion of the thriller genre in general and how the popularity of authors like Freida contributed to the rise of formulaic, unintentional, and poorly constructed thrillers. And look, I know that thrillers are often considered this adrenaline-pumping genre designed to shock and disgust its readers, but I personally think that there is so much more to the genre than just that. First of all, I think that thrillers can be a safe space to explore the darker, evil, cruel side of humanity, and the best thrillers out there are the ones with intent and real, raw characters and carefully laid groundwork. They're the ones that discuss societal issues and delve into psychological complexities. Like, let's take the most classic example there is. Think about Gone Girl, that we all read and loved, or at least we watched the movie, right? Gone Girl wasn't just a story about a missing wife. It was a razor-sharp critique of marriage, gender dynamics, and media. Sure, of course, there were some twists in the story, but each one served its specific purpose. It wasn't there just to shock you. It was there to actually say something to critique something and now compare it to the many thrillers and twists in them that we see today. Am I the only one who just feels like most of the time they just seem completely hollow, like they have been thrown in just to tick a certain box? Because I for sure feel like the only thing thriller authors do nowadays is bend over backwards to deliver a shocking twist, even if that twist makes no sense at all. Again, I'm looking at you, Neverline. As a result, we continue to get books with less nuanced storytelling and more cheap thrills. Yes, they are entertaining at the moment, that's for sure, but they ultimately leave you feeling completely empty, like eating a bag of chips when you actually need a real meal. Also, in order for the twist to really work and not just feel illogical and contrived, there absolutely has to be attention to detail. A great thriller, just like any great book in general, thrives on little things, those breadcrumbs that when you look back make the twist inevitable yet still very much surprising. Unfortunately though, I see less and less detailed and well-written thrillers, and that just makes me super upset. I know it's a huge generalization, but it truly sometimes seems like the only thing the internet wants to read is those simple, tropified thrillers filled with shallow characters whose actions are mainly dictated by the plot rather than their own motivations. Yeah, unfortunately, as long as authors like Freida keep churning out multiple books per year and publishers continue to capitalize on that formula, I don't see this changing anytime soon. But to return to our question of the day, do I think that Freida McFadden ruined the thriller genre? Well, even after everything I said, all the criticism of Freida that I listed, most of which I myself agree with, I have to say no. Not necessarily. Honestly, it just feels unfair and a bit icky to place the blame for an entire genre's issues on one successful woman. I think Freida's popularity simply highlights a larger problem within the genre as a whole and within this current trend of just consuming as much information as possible and reading as many books as we can in as little time as possible. Look, I think there is nothing wrong with enjoying light, easy, fast thrillers, but I think we should also challenge ourselves to read something more sophisticated from time to time and to expect more from the genre as well, to demand stories that are fresh, unpredictable, and above all smart, which is what I'm trying to do with this video, I guess. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, if the readers demand, the publishers and the authors will inevitably listen. Anyways, to conclude this whole discussion, I must say that I'm always hopeful and open to see an author grow and improve their writing. I have seen plenty of authors make massive strides since their debut novels, so I think that's not impossible for Freida as well. That being said, Freida, again, much like Colleen Hoover, has openly stated that her primary goal is to entertain her readers, that she tends to simply shrug off criticism and move to her next idea. I'm just trying to be entertaining. I'm not trying to write War and Peace. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Freida's next book, The Crash, is about to hit shelves in a couple of days, and it's apparently about a woman taken in by a shady couple after being stranded in Maine with a broken ankle.
So this is actually interesting. I wrote this book I wrote this book like 5 years ago, and it was an example of a book that I wrote it and I was just like, I don't think this book is good enough. So I put it aside and I published lots of other things. I published The Housemaid and like lots of other books. And then I just suddenly got an idea for how to fix it. And I fixed it, and I rewrote maybe half of it, and now I'm like thrilled with it. So like that's sort of a lesson that like never publish something I'm not happy with because I can fix it. And I'm not gonna put something out before I've made myself happy.
Yeah, I might pick it up and see how I like it. I certainly do not expect it to be the next War and Peace, but if I notice even a little bit of improvement when it comes to her writing and some better developed characters, I'm gonna be content. I promise. Yeah, that was it from me for today. Let me know all your thoughts on Freida and her books and the thriller genre in general, and give me some of your recommendations for thrillers that do it right. Drop those gems in the comment section down below, and let's just keep the conversation going, and maybe, just maybe, we can help push the genre in the right direction. Who knows? As always, like this video and subscribe to my channel if you feel like it, and stay safe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!